Well, hello there. I know it has been a minute, but I am so glad to be back. I cannot wait to talk to you about this very sensitive subject. I am here at Houston Media Source. You can see, obviously, but I'm so grateful to be here and them allowing me to come back to talk about this very sensitive subject. Everybody's been talking about the Malia case. Everybody has been devastated and traumatized. There were nights, I don't know about you, that I could not even sleep. But I need you, yes you, get a pen, sit down, take a minute, listen in, text a friend. We're going to really talk about this, and we're not coming to you with no form or fashion. We're coming to you with some real talk today, and we're talking about hashtag do our children no more harm. I mean, my God, you know, these babies, I mean, it's just constantly, and this is my campaign, hashtag do our children no more harm. That's my shirt here. This is our campaign, and we're trying to make sure that you understand that we're not going to shut up. We're not scared to tell the truth, and we're here to talk about the matter of do our children no more harm. And we also want you to make sure that you text or get on the phone and call a friend, grandma, somebody to sit down and listen in.
Please.
Now, we're going to be talking about today, I sent out an email making a very transparent message, talking about it in view of these increasing numbers of these children who are either, many, sadly to say, being murdered, kidnapped, emotionally and physically abused, sex trafficked, or they may even have issues that's going on where parents are what I call ransoming their children between marriage, divorce, or separation issues. Okay, and so I really want to jump in on the sexual part of it because of this epidemic that we're in. This ransom part is what Holy Spirit has spoken to me, and I'm very concerned about it for that reason. And so today we're going to be telling you a couple of alarming statistics that you do need a pen about. So you can write them down when you hear my guests after they introduce themselves. They're going to share with you these alarming issues to really get you to see why we're here about do our children no more harm. And so you can get some awareness. So my first guest, I'm excited to introduce and allow her to introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. I am Lorraine Jeanfin Joseph. I am the founder and director of Alpha and Omega Music, Dance, and Arts Academy in the LaPorte area. I am also a preacher and motivational speaker and an educator of 25 years.
Yes, and I'm so excited. We have another powerhouse with us.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Cynthia Carter with Watts Ministries, located in the Houston area. I'm a pastor of 18 years, and in those 18 years, we have done evangelism, apartment adoption, where we adopt apartment complex, and we motivate youth and parents, and just work in our community to bring wholeness.
Amen.
Thank you for having me.
You know, we're talking here candidly and very real, but there are some situations we know, and I want to make sure everybody know, you know, we may bring out issues concerning Malia, and that's why I wore the pink today, because of Malia. But I do want to make sure that we know that it's not just Malia's case. This is a case that is an epidemic today, and I wanted to bring out the fact that these stats we're going to kind of let my guests share with you, and then I'll share a couple of things with you too. But one of the things that I want to say on my personal recognizance in regards to Malia's mother. Malia's mom, everybody was really going down hard, and I know I was going down hard. Said, "I'll cut you. What's in your mind?" Right. You know, I was doing all of that, and I know everybody else was too.
Right.
You know, every time the news came on, I was just like, you know, ooh, if I can just jab slap her, if I can just get my hands on her,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
But what the deal was that that's a normal reaction of a mother. That's a normal reaction, especially of an advocate, you know, of a person who's been there. You know, I'm a survivor of abuse. I'm a survivor of incest and survivor of all types of rapes and things like that. But because of my survival, I really want you all who are watching us to pay attention to the fact that we really, really have to realize she's still going to be our sister regardless, okay? And some say, no, she's a devil. Well, that may be true. But as someone who loved the Father, I believe that long-suffering and love is going to be in its place. But I'm processing. That's what I want to make the announcement. I'm processing. You may be still processing too. But she too is a victim of her own trauma.
Yes.
You know, and so, but this baby was traumatized, okay?
Yes.
So we want to talk about stats as we process. I hope your pen is ready so you can take these down. What I want to share is that under these circumstances, some of those that Malia went through, child sexual abuse and incest and the whole nine, it happens in different types of fashions. And so the fact of the matter is I want you to take down, did you know this? Child sexual abuse often takes place under specific and often surprising circumstances, you know. And you can see with her circumstances, you left her home with the abuser, is
Right.
what allegedly they said, but you left her there with the boyfriend. Okay, and so it is helpful for us to know that these circumstances sometimes allow that situation to blow up or expand out in other ways. But we hope that through these messages we're going to bring about today, that it'll help you develop strategies, mother, strategies, grandma, you know, because we're hoping that we could be that Titus II movement that a whole lot of churches ain't trying to do.
is correct.
A whole lot of first
Yes.
ladies or whatever you want to call them, elect ladies, we need to be trying to do, but we hope to develop or give some things to consider, you know, to avoid this sexual epidemic that we're in. Now, 81% of child sexual abuse, these incidents from all ages, they occur in one perpetrator, one child, different situations and instances. And so, but the key that I want you to write down for those that are leaders or child care providers and grandmas, that 6 to 11-year-old children, 23% are most likely to be abused in multiple victim circumstances.
Yes.
This is horrific, you know, and the situation that has happened to her and that are happening all across the globe.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And the horrific part about this thing is happening in the church. And yes, it do happen in the church.
Yes.
And I mean, it's constantly,
That's right.
you know, showing that now. So, Dr. Carter, you want to share some stats that you have in regards to, you know, where it typically is happening at right now that they need to know about?
Yes, Dr. Murphy. Most sexual abuse of the children occur in the residence of the child and is typically in the home of the victim or the perpetrator himself. 84% of the children under age 12 and 71% of the children aged 12 to 17. Sexual assaults on children are most likely to occur at 8 o'clock a.m. and 12 p.m. between 3 and 4 p.m. older children aged 12 to 17.
And you know, one of the things when I was looking at that stat, I thought, you know, they must mean 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. because they said 12 p.m.
12 p.m.
But I believe it's a.m. because that's in the night hour when the boyfriend over there,
Yes.
Sneaking
and you
around.
drunk and you
Yes.
sleep,
That is correct.
you know, or they done gave you some kind of Mickey so they can go in and sleep with your baby.
Yes.
But I believe in that midnight hour, by that time when you done got in that sleep realm where they got an opportunity to go in, and between 3 and 4 p.m., I thought was really, really significant as well, because I think Prophet is going to share with you why, because that's what?
Between the hours of 3 and 4 p.m., there is also a peak, that's the peak time in assaults in the late evening hours. And 1 in 7 incident of sexual assault perpetrated by juveniles occurs on school days in the after school hours between 3 and 7 p.m. with a peak from 3 to 4 p.m. And that is when the children are after school programs.
Yes.
Yes.
Cheerleading, football. You know, you have all these girls running around, you know, color guards and all this stuff.
Yeah.
You never know because there's no supervision then in the sense of where it's tight
Yes.
inside of in the building, in the school building, where we have the monitors and the police officers and so forth walking around.
Yes.
This is when the kids are doing what they do, the after school activities, you know, and this is what happens.
Yes.
You know, children, I guess, practicing or acting
said the
out
word.
what's
You said the
acting,
word.
you know, what's actually going on with them at
Practicing.
home. Yeah, practicing, you know,
Practicing.
and acting out.
Yeah,
you know what I
in
mean? What's
fact,
happening to them.
In fact, you know, the close of last year, there was a familiar school district with us around the children. And on the way home, after school was over with,
Yeah.
and the crossing guards let them cross, there was a vacant lot next to the school, and 3 boys took one young girl and assaulted her.
My Lord.
And the school didn't do anything about it because they said it was after school hours and it was not on the school property.
Oh, my goodness.
And so that is an incident where peers are affecting
Yes.
and being the perpetrator there.
Yes. You know, because of one of the key things that she said, that this is when juvenile perpetrators are really, really trying to practice. Many of them are in peer type of pressure,
Yes.
which means that you ain't got you none yet. You know, so now, man, we'll watch out. You hold her down. And so then by that time, they all want to see if they can get a feel of it.
Right.
And this baby has been gang raped,
Right.
you know.
Yes.
And I think that during this time, many of the situations that parents need to become aware about is some keys that we want to bring out here today. I hope you got your pen. I think you had enough time to go ahead and text a friend, you know, because they need to listen in, you know, because we're trying to give you some things. Now, we talked about, like I said, the issue. I gave my, you know, my personal opinion about what I feel that she could have done better as a parent. But I believe, you know, working with women in the past and being one of those women who was on the system, living in the type of apartments that she lived in,
Right.
I could have easily been a victim, but God knew for such a time as this that he needed a voice that would not be afraid to speak loud and spare not.
Right.
And I believe that in this last day, we got to make sure that we bring awareness. I think that's one of the key things that a lot of churches, a lot of organizations that are nonprofits, a lot of ministries, and especially within the children's church,
Right.
you know, and we won't leave out in the school. Me and you talk about that, you know, this training that we see is so important that we talk about the school. One of the things I wanted to bring out is some ways as far as child safety, things that we need to think about. Sexual abuse, we know, is very prevalent. We know it's an epidemic. But some key awareness that I think people need to get some education about in the church first, because what's at home is coming to the church.
Right.
I know I did.
Right.
I was
Right.
incested at home and I was running to the church. Well, somebody please help me, you know? And so sexual abuse and that incest and then family violence. These particular 3s were the ones that I'm bringing out now that I want y'all to kind of piggyback after I call these out. We know about gun safety. We're still seeing these kids getting harmed, parents putting these kids in harm's way. We see hot cars. We see online perpetrating.
Right.
We got kids who are looking at pornography because parents are not being an example and probably leaving it on the screen.
Right.
Right.
We got water safety issues where kids are constantly being drowned. So many babies got drowned last week. It just
Yes.
broke my heart. And then child daycare issues. I want to start here because we know that we talk about this issue. So the child daycare issues, those that are in apartment complexes like you and I, we're working with those populations to make sure that they understand. So these issues right here that I'm bringing out, the child daycare, the children and the youth team ministry leadership,
Yes.
pastors,
Yes.
teachers, coaches, mentors,
Yes.
counselors even, and being at community events. You know, these are ways that these kids can easily be put in harm's way. And I wanted y'all to kind of share individually about what has happened for you work at a
Alternative school.
an alternative school.
Yeah.
And this is one of the areas I see there's been a real big piece of the meat of kids that coming out of homes where mothers been sexed up all day long. They're coming in fuming with smelling bad. They're coming in very angry because they've been called bees and, you know, all kind of out of their names. To the point, they're angry.
Yes. And the sad thing about this situation, and not just in this, it's all over, not just the school system where I work or
Yes.
so forth. Some of these people, like I told you before, are immigrants,
That's correct.
and they're being abused by the person who's the citizen.
Yes.
So they are intimidated and afraid to say that they're being abused, or their children or their daughters or whatever
Exactly.
is being abused, because they're in fear of being deported.
Exactly.
So that is such a sad situation.
Yes.
You know, but I speak to my students and I tell them, if something is going on, you tell me. It is my job as your teacher to keep you safe.
That's right.
And they need to know that it's okay to speak. They need to be comfortable enough with you, you
Yes.
know, or whomever, so that they would be able to speak and tell it.
That's correct.
You know, we have to make them comfortable. Whatever uncomfortable situation they're going through, when they come to us, we need to make certain that they know that we are their safety net.
That's right.
That they are safe to tell us, so that we can save them from this abuse.
Yes. Well, the part that we're trying to educate you all about today is the fact that many of them are not aware. We have parents who are going through post-traumatic stuff from their own incest, their own abuse,
That
their
is
own
correct.
domestic violence. And so we talked about early on, as I shared with you all, that, you know, I define it as a sacrifice of the children. You sacrifice these children because I want to make sure I keep my man. I want to make sure I'm going to be at the night by
Yes.
myself. But what the deal is that we've got to make sure, based on what you said, we have kids today, like you said, they're afraid to tell.
Yes.
I've had cases as a counselor and therapist that say, you know, I just don't want my mom to go to jail. So we got these kids who are afraid to tell on the mother's boyfriend.
Right.
So this piece that we're doing here today about do our kids no more harm, and to make sure that we be the voice.
Right.
That's our
That's
campaign.
correct.
Being the voice for
That's
those
correct.
who cannot speak for themselves. And I believe that if you are really, really that leader, that coach, that teacher, that like yourself, you said, you're going to make sure that you take it another notch to talk to them,
Right.
to show them that you can talk to me. I never use the word "you can trust me,"
Right.
because that's happened to so many of them.
That is correct.
Thinking that they can trust them, you know. And so, but I always tell them, you can talk to me about anything, and we got to use wisdom on how we get them to talk to us so that we can get the information.
Right.
Because I'm not scared of the mamas today who come in with their big mouths about what they're gonna do, you know, and threats. I believe that it's our responsibility, pastor, leader, teacher, who's listening to us now,
That is
to
correct.
make sure that we speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Now, as one Pastor Carter, who has watched kids that I've counseled or been in my mentoring programs over the years, because you all have been both a part of the mentoring programs that I've done with the kids. One of the things a lot of parents have a tendency to do, that we talk about these lists here, the teachers, the pastors, coaches, and so on, they have a tendency to trust them based on just their background. I don't care if you did a national check.
Right.
You better have some discernment this last
Right.
day.
Right.
You better be able to see in the
That's
spirit that
correct.
character, that thing that you know that is weak.
Right.
I don't care how much intellect they got, how much scripture they can quote, and how good they are with them kids.
Yeah.
You better be able to see
Yes.
if there's something that's perverted and weak in this individual, that, I mean, even there in your own house.
Right.
You work with the apartment complex.
Yes, you have to have some type of discernment, and not only that, you have to put some mechanisms into
Yes.
place. Never leave the child with one person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, making sure that there's two people with that program, and that background checks are done, and done periodically, to make sure that they're up to date, and making sure that they're, they're credited.
Mm-hmm.
That they are who they say they are, and they do what they say they do.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
go in those programs and sit down in the programs and see what they're teaching the children. We actually adopt a complex, and we have the children's program weekly, and the
Yes.
children come in after school, and we have individuals that come in and teach, and we have one pastor come in and to teach about unsafe touching. You know, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And she used the dolls to show the children,
Yes.
you know, because one of the things that I was raped when I was 12 years old. Well, one of the things that was happening to me that I see that's happening in the children that we mentor is that they're left alone to raise themselves. The parents are doing whatever, they're going wherever they want to go, doing whatever they want to do. And these children, the only time they see their parents is when it's bedtime, or they get up and they make them go to school in the morning, but during the time, Daytime, there's no mentoring, there's no teaching.
Right.
Well, with me, I had 7 brothers, and my mother was a living maid. She was always gone. So I was raising myself and my siblings. Well, I'm teaching myself because my mother's not sitting down teaching me about my body, about who I am.
Right.
So when I was raped at 12 years old, I actually didn't know what happened to me.
My goodness.
It was a
Oh,
shocker to me. And so I knew something bad happened, and I just kind of folded over and I kept quiet about it. I didn't say one single thing. I could have been pregnant and they wouldn't have known it.
Yes.
And that's where I see a lot of these youth are that I'm mentoring right now, is that they don't know. And a lot of times they don't know about their hygienes. They
Right.
don't. So we teach them hygienes. We
Yes.
teach them, safe touching. We teach them about going to bed at night, how to take care of their bodies. How to eat properly. There's so many factors that we can teach the children how to take care of themselves and be alert. So I never talked about it. I didn't talk about that incident until I was 30 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
You brought up a very important point, when you talked about the parents gone. I think it's important for us, too, to make sure parents who are watching us to recognize that's the purpose of this, to bring up those issues that are silent, that we are really, I would say, historically recycling what we know.
Right.
So we just do the only thing we know how to do.
Right.
So, and I believe that part of the problem is that many of the parents who have their own trauma,
Right.
they don't know how to take care of the kid. And so the kids, like you said, you take care of yourself. You had to take care of these kids. You had to become an adult very early on. And so these are some risks that I believe that many of the parents have put themselves in, which means now you are putting yourself in a position to abuse your kids, maybe unconsciously.
Yes.
But I believe that we all still have a responsibility. I believe that we all have a responsibility to educate ourselves, and this is the reason why we're here, to talk about that portion of the education, to make sure that everybody who know to do right, that we begin to act it out as a Titus II movement like we're trying to speak here. I believe one of those greatest opportunities, which y'all were talking about, the kids having a role model, having somebody to come to a teacher or a mentor, someone to actually talk to them about the situation. I know when I was young, as a very young girl, it was very hard. I came from a family of 12. It was very hard, and I had to take care of the 8 of us, that is 7, because it was 8 at home. I was the eldest at home. But I believe that when you're put in a position to no longer have, how they say, too much too soon, no longer have the opportunity to live a child lifestyle, and now you, like you said, been an adult. Share a little bit about, Prophetess, how it was when you were coming up. Because I know we talked about that part of telling. I think now parents and grandparents that are listening, you need to hear her story as she began to share briefly about telling, and how parents ignore those signs.
Yes, I am from a Latino family of 14, and growing up, I was raped, sodomized, and abused by not strangers, but people in my family. And there was a time where I think I was 10 years old, and an incident occurred where one of my other sisters came out and told my mother that my stepdad was messing with her. So I said, oh, this is my chance. This is my opportunity to tell her that I'm being, molested and touched by my stepdad. And when I told her, she told me plainly, I do not believe you. Everybody else was believed.
Right.
Oh my.
But she did not believe me. So this is where I became silent, because I'm telling the person that is supposed to protect me. I'm telling the woman that's supposed to take care of me. This is my mother. And I'm telling you that I'm being hurt, I'm being touched, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And she would not, she did nothing about it. Not for me, but for the others she did it. But for me, no.
Oh my goodness.
She believed the others, but Lola she didn't believe. So from that time on, I just let it go. And I was abused until I was 8 years old, until I was 13. And I started to fight. So when I became older, when I got more experience, like, this is not right. I started to fight back. So I had to protect myself. you know.
That's
So it was
something.
very difficult. And then not only was it difficult for me living in that environment, but it was difficult for me in the supernatural, you know,
Yes.
aspect of it, you know, with my spirit man.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you know you have to fight with something in the natural and you still have to fight with something in the supernatural.
Right.
I call it the paranormal.
It really is. You know, I wanted to pass to me, Dr. Carter, to share as well, because you brought out that point, and I know what she said about what happened to her, you know, and a lot of parents that are listening, you know, we understand that you did the best you could. We're not here to ridicule the parent
We're not
or
bashing you.
try to bash
Yeah.
men even.
Right.
We're here to know that this is an epidemic across the globe, you know, whether it's same sex or whatever. We know that it is not the will for us to be in this place that we're in right now.
Right.
And, you know, will of God. And I think at this point where we are right now, sharing about how important it is for us to look at some of these ways that we have been, you know, recycling in our lives has caused a whole lot of children and a whole lot of young boys to get hurt and even be confused in their own gender.
That is correct.
You know, so
Yes.
I want to hear from you because of me too. I told my mom and she was like, you know, it didn't happen. She
Right.
didn't
Right.
believe me.
Right.
What about you?
Well, for me, my mother just didn't talk at all. And so I carried that all along. What helped me through was my relationship with the Lord. And I decided that, you know, I was just going to be an adult
Yeah.
and take care of myself at age 13.
Yes.
So by that time, I done quit school in the 8th grade, and I'm out there trying to live an adult life. One of the passions that I have and why I adopt the apartment complex now is due to those things that happened to me when I was younger. But it did make me take a look as I was growing up with my daughter and sitting her down and then teaching her about her body and what could happen. And it happens to just about every child. It seems that it happens that someone's confronting them. One of her high school teachers called her, and just so happened I picked up the phone when he called. And when he called, I picked up that phone and he answered, you know, he was talking to my daughter. And I'm like, well, what is he doing calling you at home? And so it come out that she's a teenager. He told her she was an adult because she was a teenager and band just about in high school. And she could have the privacy to talk to me. And I said, no way. And I made her write a statement out of everything that he had said to her. And I took her to the school. I took her to the principal and I took her to the dean. I took it as far as I could take it until he was removed from that school.
That's good.
And but you know, it happens every day that a young girl, and I've heard this story over and over, and I confronted the mothers who told me, said, my daughter told me this, and said, I didn't believe her. I said, well, why would your child lie to you?
That's right.
Right.
And that's something you have to look into the mirror with. Why you don't want to believe your own child, this innocent child, that this man confronted your child and did this to your child. Why would you not?
You know, with the situation that happened with Malia and our efforts today to try to get you all to know that we do have the responsibility to see that our children are not harmed and not in your own home. Yes. But one of the things we want to bring out is for you too to look at some of the signs. You know, let's talk a little bit about that. You know, because a lot of the parents, I believe that the situation with Malia's mother. Maybe she was under stress. I don't know. I know there was times in my own life where I was under distress and having flashbacks of my own trauma where I became very angry. I just thought, oh, I'm by myself with these kids. A lot of parents are going through that. You know, maybe you're going through that. Maybe you are depressed because you're raising this baby by yourself. Maybe you're mad because you won't pay the child support, or maybe you're mad because your parent won't accept you because you made a decision that you have a different gender than what they would want you to be in. You know, whatever that is. I really believe that we're in a place right now that has caused many, we want to make sure this is not a genderized situation here regarding abuse, because we have men and women who abuse their children and who neglect their children. So let's talk a little bit about some areas that we need to get them to recognize. Some can't recognize because they're on drugs and, you know, and they, you know, they have a history of abuse themselves, like I said. But we got to look at loneliness. We got to look at feeling rejected. You know, we got to look at all of those. What were some of the signs that we can look at to recognize the abuse and the neglect, Pastor Carter?
for the children?
for the children?
Well, when they start to withdraw, just a normal
Yeah.
child that should be active and should be jumping around playing, when they won't speak to you
Yes.
and you try to get them out. I know there's a couple of young children in the program that I have looked at, and I've talked to them, and they've come out, they begin to laugh and talk, and then they go away and stay away for 3 or 4 weeks and then come back, they're back in that shell again.
Yeah.
And so those are the signs that we want to look for. Of course, you're looking at physical abuse, any bruising or anything like that, but most of all, if they're stuttering, if they have learning impediments, where it's dyslexia, writing their words backwards and stuff. Everybody say that's a disease, but since I've been working with this group of children, they've corrected the writing behaviors and they're doing much better. So I start to pay attention to all of those kinds of signs when they don't want to talk, or if they flinch when you come close to them as an adult. They don't know how to look you in the eye. They won't look you in the eye. They're always holding their head down and always totally withdrawn, and not learning well.
Yes.
Well,
the other thing I know is jumping every time you go in their room.
Yes.
Especially at night, they're jumpy. They're watching the door. They got their heads always covered up or going, what?
Yeah.
Because they're afraid that perpetrators come in the room again. And remember, the perpetrators don't have to be somebody they don't know. Most times it's people in your own house, their own daddies, their own even mothers. I've had cases. But some of those other signs that you had mentioned, I know for myself, I didn't recognize that was one of my issues, even though we had a whole bunch of rats in the house that made me scared to get up to go to the bathroom. But one of the other reasons was that I was, feeling that the trauma of what I was experiencing, that I might see the perpetrator in the night, going to the bathroom.
Sure.
And so I was just pee in the bed.
Right.
So we find that
Yes.
happening. That's some
Yes.
signs.
Right.
Don't just think. A lot of these kids are getting beat because they pee in the bed, and the parents are beating them because, they're pooping on themselves or whatever, because they thinking that they just being difficult.
Right.
And so what have you experienced with some of the signs? I know you showed me, you told me some things as well about the kids who really won't even give you any eye contact.
Right. And not that only the eye contact, some of them will mutilate themselves.
That's correct.
They start cutting themselves.
yeah, they do. Burning.
And rage. You can ask, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go, no. And I don't want to be his partner, or, what I mean? It's and I look at all of that.
Yes.
And for me, for the signaling that, okay, Ms. J, I'm crying out.
Yeah.
I'm crying out. So I pay very close attention to, my students' body language, the things they say, and the things they may write.
Yes.
In the corner of, their journal. And that's why I read every single student journal at the end of the day before I leave my classroom, just to make certain that my students are okay, And I wanted to say that sexual predators are not the boogeyman. There are people that look like me,
Right.
Dressed in robes,
Right.
Police officers, your siblings, bus drivers, teachers, and some of them take occupations in with children because it's an easy target for them.
Right.
So we have to be very careful, where we allow our children to go, where we allow them to sleep, whose home we're sending them to,
Right.
and not because it's your quote unquote siblings, it means that they're safe.
Right.
I had to learn that for myself.
Well, parents are not asking enough questions today. I believe that they should ask and learn who's in the house. I'm very, very particular about that with my grandkids. I want to meet the parents. I want to see, are you single? Is he living here? What's going on? I have a right if I'm going to leave my child there.
Right.
So I believe that we need to also look at the passive, the withdrawn part when it comes to even seeing their own parents when they come pick them up, or the boyfriend pick them up, or girlfriend. And then the injuries and stuff like that they're suddenly showing you on their arm, or they're holding their arm, or these unreasonable clothing that don't fit them. They're wearing jackets and it's 100 degrees outside. We need to look at also We talk about the low self-esteem, right? We talk about the caregiver, where they start to belittle them, that verbal abuse. Now they're expecting you to do that, and when you're not cussing them, they don't make no move until you say, get out!
Right.
Start cussing them, then they make a move, because this is what they're accustomed to.
Right.
But as far as the neglect, what are some of the things I've seen? I know you, Pastor Carter, have seen that. With your feeding program, a lot of these kids are so
They're hungry.
Right.
We make sure they don't leave our program without a snack, because when they come home, there's no one there, or there's no food there.
Yes.
In fact, there's just so much. There's not even furniture sometimes, most of the time, in most of the places that we go to and deal with. They sit on the floor and eat. They don't have a table. And so all of these things play into the oppression and their mindsets when they come and they're hungry. They love the attention. They break and run toward the program when we get there. And so one of the things that we should really do is strategize how we can impact our communities through these types of programs. That we put them back into our schools, and we put God there, because if these parents have to depend on themselves to change, they're not going to change.
That's right.
But if they have this hope of the gospel, as well as all the things, the tools that we can give them through the parenting programs, and some of them just won't take advantage of it. Now that I'm angry about, because we have parents that we know that you can go, we offer GED. We put it on the campus, and I had 32 to sign up this year. You know how many actually attended? 2. 32 signed up, 8 started. I now have 2 left. And those are kind of things that we want to break, and begin to expose them to things. Like I said, I quit school in 8th grade. That was my passion to get back. So when I went and re-educated myself, and that's what I'm trying to stress to the mothers, you don't have to stay to where you are a victim. Stop being a victim and start being the conqueror here, and start helping your children to surpass you, because that's where they are. Your children don't have to be hungry. They don't have to be abused, and you don't have to be abused. There is a new life. I mean, you can dress better. You can look better. I went to school smelling like pee, and I smell some of these children. They haven't taken a bath in a couple of weeks. One little girl hadn't had her hair combed in 4 weeks, and I sent a note to ask her, Mom, can I comb my hair? Can I let her take a bath and comb my hair and blah, blah, blah? And she let me do it, And so the little girl felt pretty when she left there. And those are the kind of things that they need to take advantage of.
Well, I wanted to say this too, what you just brought out, that particular situation in regards to, the neglect. I think a lot of parents don't realize some of these kids won't even come, they don't want to come home. I know I didn't. But what I was being, abused by, experiencing, that is. So we find them sometimes having certain needs like you described, but parents can't meet that need because a lot of them can't read. A lot of them are ashamed that they can't read, so they don't want people to know. We had this even in the church where they can't read, and many of them won't go and get the GED for that reason. We've got preachers who can read the Bible, but they can't read. They do more what they call this, they're literally functional in being able to read signs and things like that. But we've got to recognize the fact that if we're able to get what we need based on programs that are out there, resources that are out there, I think at some point, you that are listening to us, you'll be able to see some of these signs that we're bringing out here. One of the other big issues that are going on today, as we're switching gears, in regards to those signs of human trafficking, because a lot of the parents and kids, peers, are selling their own peers. And so the human trafficking part of this in this last day, I believe, has just become so horrific that they're actually selling their own babies. I mean, we just had, was it this week? I believe a couple of days ago, she sacrificed her 10-year-old to have sex with her boyfriend because she figured that's the best way to keep him satisfied. This is, this broke my heart, to hear that, and so as we begin to look at this, what are some things that you think in regards to some experiences that you may have had in regards to watching kids peer to peer? And so you will know what the peer to peer is. They invite them to some location or party or whatever, and then that dealer, whoever that is that they're working with, because now they've become the trafficker of their own peer.
Right.
And they sell them out. They get the money and they take them off after they've drugged them and take them off and sell them somewhere else.
Yes.
You
I
want to
mean,
share?
It is ridiculous. And this is a part of abuse as well, where
Yes, it is.
these perpetrators can see the innocence of this kid and influence this child to go in and bring your kids. And they look for them. They be stalking them out on the playgrounds.
Yes.
You know, in different parks that there's no adult supervision.
Right.
You know, and they get them to bring these children in, and then when you look, the child go missing. You know, lure them with candy, or some of them need money, so they will lure them with money. You know, so it's crazy that we allow this and we not doing anything about it. Well, we are.
Yeah,
You know,
we are. Yeah.
but I'm just saying the parents, you know, you have to be on alert. You have to know where your children is.
Right.
You have to, in this time and this season, you have to know where your children is. You have to know where they're going and who they're going with. Keep tabs on your children. Talk to your kids.
Yes.
Communicate with them.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't take but 5 minutes
Right.
for you to know the changes, or you can see a different as change in the behavior. You know, it doesn't take but 5 minutes.
We've got to be more conscious because
That's
the
right.
boyfriends are getting the girls younger and younger. And they're literally going into their houses when the parent's not home, having sex with the girl, like boyfriend and girlfriend, gaining her trust and having her turn on her parents and leave her parents home.
Oh yes, I've seen that many times.
Between 12 and up. You know, this 12 to 17 window is where they're taking it. It's chronic here in Houston. And so one of the things that we need to do is stay in touch with our teenagers.
Right.
We need to be able to explain everything to them and give them privilege. Stop trying to threaten them into submission and start communicating with
is
them and
correct.
teaching them and then zoning what they do.
Yes.
Well, I want to bring out a couple points here that Dr. Sandra, who was going to be a part of our group today, what she said I thought was very powerful. She said that, and these are just some nuggets that she gave, she said, as opposed to most people, she said, people don't realize that we really need the Holy Spirit for discernment. So people say, I don't need that. I don't need Holy Spirit. I'm saved. And she said that everyone should be a possible suspect till proven otherwise.
That's right. That's what I
She
said.
said
Yes.
that no child is too young to
That's it.
an abuser.
Yeah.
That's it.
We need more programs for single moms, is what you were saying, inside the church and outside. That's what we're trying to do here today, to educate the grandparents, because we got situations where cougar grandparents are taking care of these kids.
Right.
And he see how fine this child is, and I'm dealing with you because I can get money out of you. You can pay my car note and let me stay here and do nothing.
Right.
So therefore, now I see your granddaughter is looking real good to me. So while you sleep with your blood pressure going on or whatever, I can go in and chip in on this child and threaten the whole house. And so we got to know that these are some signs that we're trying to bring awareness for you all to see. And so the new laws need to be established for rape and assault, she said, and many criminals are getting probation, a slap on the hand,
Yes.
even the leadership, because this stuff is happening really big in the
Yes.
church.
Yes.
We
It is
cannot
huge
excuse the
in the
church, and we're
church.
not talking about
It
the church.
is huge.
We're talking about the real matter that is going on behind the cloth.
Yes, behind the cloth.
And it is real, and this is why they're getting away with it. Sexual abuse affects the total child with the trauma. Parents need to know what is considered abuse. Many of them don't consider it abuse.
Right.
Mental illness, low self-esteem, lack of money, and the life is that they're and they live is present in most of these cases. So what they're living in is most present in these cases we talk about. And she said generational sexual abuse such as incest is going on. Most missing children are abducted for sex or some type of trafficking.
Yeah.
But our time is wrapped up. We want to share with you all, if we could, in our last few minutes, about some safe ways we need to prevent. And so first of all, we need to look and make sure that you recognize, okay? You realize, don't keep trying to put this thing out that, that's just how they acting.
Right.
We didn't make sure we discover, discern, and understand the suspectual type of sexual abuse. Talk about it. Sit around and talk about it like we're doing right here, and recognize these signs that we describe and react responsibly, and make sure you understand these particulars. But before we get off of here, I need to say this, and then we're going to let them share a little bit about their organization and what they're doing after we talk about our co-sponsors of hashtag Do Our Children No More Harm. I think it's important that we all come together. It's not no new programs out there about child abuse because they're everywhere. Right. But what we're trying to do is get the education out there. All of us here are educators. We are offering you the opportunity to let us come and help you in your church, in your youth program, at your apartment complex, on your job even, in a way to let people understand how prevalent and how this epidemic of abuse is getting so bad till we can't even turn the TV on or off without time to get it on. It's about some child being left in the car, run over on purpose, and beaten. And so this is what I said here about women who sacrifice their children in relationships, even in friends. People have beat their kids behind their sister girlfriend. And so when their spouses or their common law spouses, when we see these, what we talk about, what I said was indirect or co-abuse. And in my opinion, Malia Davis was in a co-abuse situation.
Yes,
this is in my opinion. She suffered this type of where the perpetrator and the mom got together. You realize that that's where the most of the stuff come from when they black sheeps. You realize it's a black sheep, so, the mom ain't paying her no attention or him no attention, so I'm going to incest him, I'm going to beat him, the mom don't like him no way. So they abuse these kids and they molest them and kill them. And so we got to look at these type of women. Now, we're not going to stereotype, but most of these women who are lonely, who prefer to sacrifice their children. I know we might be talking to you today. We're not trying to do church here. We're trying to do some education so you get an understanding. So women who harm their children, that means they are male coerced, okay, because of their loneliness, because of them feeling rejected, because of their trauma of whatever they went through. So now they become an offender subconsciously. They know they're doing it.
Right.
And so they become very passive, and so now they think that they can get away with it because now this is going to bring me closer to him. So whatever happened, or bring me closer to her. So whatever happened, I believe this happened, in my opinion, in Malia's case. And so we need to make sure that we understand that we got gazillions across the globe where women have sacrificed their children, even for their friends. And so I want you all to take a minute and share about your organization and share. I wanted to make sure I give kudos, make sure I mention them who gave our shirt here, hashtag Do Our Children No More Harm, we're talking about here in our message today. Show the shirts. Now this one right here was done by Evangelist Seraphia Hall Ministries. And this one was done by, VDH, I think.
Design?
Bernadette Hudson. So BDH Design.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to say thank you for supporting us.
Yes.
And we cannot leave out our buttons. So get a hold of me. The buttons don't cost anything. We want you to make sure you get a hold of our buttons. And it says hashtag Do Our Children No More Harm. And it says no more like Malia.
No more like
we
Malia.
know
No more.
that they're in every color, every culture.
Yes.
And so we want to make sure that there's no more like Malia.
Yeah.
So that's why we call it hashtag Do Our Children No More Harm. Now share about your ministry briefly, because we only got 10 minutes down. So, and I want her to give a chance to share.
Alpha and Omega Ministries is it's a corporation that has everything in it, from dance to music to anything that regarding the arts that you can think about. Also, the ministry portion of Alpha and Omega deals with women. I help women to come up like I came up from abuse, whether it's spousal or childhood abuse. And also I use the arts to bring out the gifts and talent that's within the children, to give them a self-esteem and empower them through their giftings to be what Father has purposed them to be since the beginning of time.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's so awesome. And share about what's.
Well, this is What's Ministries, located in Houston, Texas. We are 19 years old, and we focus on adopting economically challenged apartment complex, where we are endeavoring to reach the whole family. If they need GED counseling, group counseling, after-school programs and tutoring, feeding, we intend to go the 900-yard and try to employ the unemployable. We are there for every kind of workshop that there is. It's all offered free and through volunteers. If you'd like to volunteer, you can certainly reach us through our website, www.wutsministries.org. Thank you for joining us today.
I am so glad y'all joined us. We had a good time.
We had a
didn't
great
we?
time.
Because we
Great
killed
time.
some more devils in some families,
Yes.
and hopefully in the church, because it do happen in the church. Now, I want you all to join us. You know, we hope that at some point we can come back and share again in another part of the series of Do Our Children No More Harm, No More Like Malia.
That's right.
And one of the things I think about this is it doesn't cost anything but time.
Yeah.
Time.
We're in a time right now we've got to sit down and talk to our children. We're in a time right now we can no longer just let them go because you're sick of them. These are some signs of so much stress women are going through because they can't pay the bills, or they just don't know about, they're sick in their bodies or whatever. But I believe the church is way late. I believe that we as leaders are way late in getting prepared to take that suit off, roll up them sleeves, and get into these apartment complexes like Pastor Carter and yourself and I are doing through your programs, and to be able to help these mothers. And that's what Building Better Families is doing.
Yes, amen.
My goal is to help the parent understand that you can come out. I was once that victim. I could have been an abuser myself,
Yes.
but I'm grateful that I'm still alive here for you and your family. And so, yes, you too can become a resourceful voice. We want you to be the voice.
That's right.
Yes.
And that is what our buttons are saying.
Yes.
No more like Malia. You can be the voice by speaking up. You can be the voice for those who cannot speak for themselves. And here's the number where you can call if you know that something is going on in your community, in your home. No more like Malia. Here's the number: 1-800-252-5400. 1-800-252-5200. You can report the abuse. And guess what? They're going to keep it anonymous.
That's right.
But the most important part is that you became the voice. And then the other thing, now we're talking about in Texas, and the other way you can do is just go on the website, texasabusehotline.org. I want to thank y'all so much for taking the time
Thank
out
you
with
so much
me.
for having us. Yes.
This has been a challenge,
you.
and for those that know me, I used to do my show here, Dr. Keeping It Real.
Yes.
But I haven't been back in a while, but this touched my heart so bad.
Yes.
I hope that you all know that you can get one of the shirts if you want to get a hold of me, and the button.
Yes.
We want to make sure that we get those out to
Yes.
everybody. You know what it's about? It's about being the voice, that you are speaking for those who cannot speak for themselves.
That's right.
And that's what this campaign,
Yes.
hashtag Do Our
Yes.
Children
No.
No More
Yes.
Harm,
Yes.
is about. So y'all got any closing words? We got
Yeah,
4 minutes.
we just want to build a healthy community.
Yes.
We're trying to establish and build a healthy community to empower not only the mothers, the single mothers, the fathers as well,
Yes.
but to also empower the children so that we can build better families. And build a healthy community.
That's good. That's good.
Come come on in and get whole with us. We'll welcome you. We're not here to judge you, condemn you, or just throw you away. We're here to say, come on, let us help you. Let us help you do what you can't do on your own. You need someone to hold you up. We're here for
here.
you. If
That's
you
right.
need somebody to strengthen your hand and to give you what you need in the process of it all, we're here to help you. So join us.
Well, and you know, before we go, I want you to know, for those that are watching me, as a counselor and a therapist, I know you've been hurt in the church. I know maybe you don't feel that you can share those dark secrets or those traumas that you never told anybody. It was hard for me to share about
Yep,
the
it was hard
incest.
for me to share
You know, it was hard
Yeah.
because, you know, your family ridicule you, your friends, you know, you don't know. But if you are a parent, and you know, whether you're a man or a woman, single parent or married going through issues, you know, we need to make sure that we talk about these so we can build better families. So we'll build, like she said, a better community, a safe house. And that's what we're doing. We're calling it House Calls
Yes.
because we want it to be safe. We want our community safe because everything that happens in our communities, they do come to the church and in our community, sometimes in our house with our own children and grandkids.
Yes.
So grandmothers, get involved when you know that mother or that son can't take care of that kid. You know we do a lot, but we should be available to help
That's right.
those parents
That's
to
right.
get what they need.
Yes.
That's right.
I'm so glad that I was afforded to come here and talk to you all today. I hope that toward the end of this message, that is something that we've said here that you really take back. And if you are a woman, or if you are a pastor, if you are a leader, look, here we are. We're letting you know we want to come. We want to make sure that we build a better family inside the church.
Yeah.
Because the church people are going home, and when they go home, they coming back to the church. And we
Right.
got too many churches that are being violated with these issues and put at harm's way, even through anger, as you described here today.
Yes.
So grateful to be here, and so important that we get involved. Gave you the number, told you how to get with us. Make sure you look at the notes at the end. We want to say thank you so much for all those who really supported us, especially the button. The person I forgot to say
you.
the button is it did I say the name?
you did.
You Products. He said you me? What is it? Cause I got a blank on here. Y'all don't remember the name who gave us that?
Nope.
No.
I drew a blank. But anyway, y'all look for the credits at the end, okay? I am so happy to be here. Don't know what to say other than you too can get involved to make sure that we
That's
have whole
right.
families and communities right here in Houston, Texas. It can happen. Right in your house, it can happen.
That's right.
See you next time. Hope that you will make sure that we do our children what? No more harm. See you next time. Thanks for joining
Bye,
us.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a great evening.